The timing was perfect. In fact, it was too perfect. On the very eve of what was supposed to be the darkest day in Roloff Farms history, chaos erupted. Just 24 hours before Caryn Chandler was scheduled to stand before a federal judge and face sentencing for the financial fraud we have been exposing in our previous deep dives, Matt Roloff collapsed. The headlines screamed tragedy. The tabloids reported that the patriarch of the farm was fighting for his life. His public relations team wasted no time blasting out statements claiming that the unbearable stress of the legal battles and the so-called false accusations had finally broken him. The narrative was set. Matt was the victim, a man pushed to the brink of death by a vindictive ex-wife and a cruel justice system. The judge, acting out of compassion and perhaps a bit of panic, granted an emergency delay. Caryn would not be going to prison today. She would remain by her fiancé's bedside. But while the rest of the world was sending thoughts and prayers, while the casual viewers were typing out messages of support and heartbreak, we were doing something else. We were zooming in. We were looking closer at the photo Matt posted from his hospital bed. The image meant to garner sympathy and stall the inevitable. And what we found in the reflection of his sunglasses might just prove that this medical emergency is the greatest acting performance of his entire career. Is Matt Roloff actually dying, or is he faking a heart attack to save his fiancée from a prison cell? We are about to check the vitals on the biggest lie in Little People, Big World history. Before we dissect the reflection that changes everything and expose the truth behind this hospital visit, I need you to hit that like button right now if you want to see justice served and the truth revealed. Show your support for this channel. And if you are new here, make sure you subscribe to LPBW Update. We are the only ones brave enough to look past the PR spin and tell you what is really happening on the farm. We have the text messages, the theories, and the evidence that they don't want you to see. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's dive into the scandal. To truly understand the magnitude of this stunt, we have to go back to the days leading up to the incident. The atmosphere at Roloff Farms was reportedly toxic. We have heard whispers from insiders that the walls were closing in on Caryn Chandler. After months of legal maneuvering, delays, and plea deal negotiations, the clock had finally run out. She was facing a sentencing hearing on Tuesday morning. Based on the sentencing guidelines for the type of embezzlement and fraud she has been accused of in our previous investigations, legal experts were predicting a sentence of 18 to 24 months in a federal facility. This wasn't a slap on the wrist anymore. This was real time. The reality of prison was setting in. Sources close to the family have suggested that Caryn was in a state of absolute panic. The lifestyle she had grown accustomed to, the travel, the farm, the fame, it was all about to be stripped away. Matt Roloff, a man who has always prided himself on being the ultimate fixer, the man who can build anything and solve any problem, found himself in a position where he was powerless. No amount of lumber, no amount of negotiation, and no amount of reality TV producer credits could stop a federal judge from reading a verdict. He needed a Hail Mary. He needed a distraction so massive that it would force the court to hit the pause button. Monday night arrived. The farm was quiet, but the tension must have been suffocating. Then the silence was broken. An ambulance was called to the property. Blue and red lights flashed across the pumpkin patch, a stark contrast to the darkness of the looming sentencing. The dispatch logs, which some eagle-eyed fans have managed to dig up, indicated a call for a male subject experiencing severe chest pains and shortness of breath. It had all the hallmarks of a cardiac event. Matt Roloff was rushed to the emergency room. Now, let's be clear. Matt has a history of genuine medical issues. We have watched him undergo surgeries, we have watched him struggle with his mobility, and we have watched him deal with the physical toll of his condition for years. That history is exactly what makes this the perfect cover. Who would question a man with his medical chart? Who would dare call him a liar when he is clutching his chest? It creates an immediate shield against criticism. If you question his health, you are the villain. But here is where the narrative starts to feel manufactured. Before the ambulance had even arrived at the hospital, before a doctor had even assessed him, the PR machine was already spinning. Matt's representation released a statement that was clearly pre-written. They didn't just say Matt was sick, they weaponized his illness. The statement claimed that Matt had collapsed due to the, quote, unbearable stress caused by the vindictive and relentless attacks on his character, unquote. They pointed the finger directly at Amy. They pointed the finger at the court case. They set the stage for a narrative where Matt is the martyr. By blaming the stress of the legal battle, they were implicitly telling the judge, if you proceed with this sentencing, if you send Caryn to jail, you might kill this man. It was a psychological power play of the highest order. The legal impact was immediate. Matt's lawyers, who were likely on standby, rushed to the judge with an emergency motion. Their argument was simple and devastatingly effective. They argued that Caryn Chandler is Matt's primary caregiver. They claimed that without her by his side during this life-threatening crisis, his recovery would be impossible. They painted a picture of a man on death's door who needed his fiancée not as a partner, but as a nurse. Your Honor, they likely argued, Ms. Chandler cannot be sent to prison while Mr. Roloff is in critical condition. It would be a death sentence for him as well. It was the ultimate guilt trip, and it worked. The judge, likely not wanting to be responsible for a medical tragedy on the record, granted a 30-day continuance. The gavel never fell. Caryn didn't have to stand up and face her crimes. Instead, she walked out of the courthouse, or rather stayed away from it entirely, free to go to the hospital. The delay was secured. The Hail Mary pass was caught in the end zone. For a moment, it seemed like they had won. The public sympathy was overwhelming. Even the biggest critics of Matt and Caryn had to pause. Comments flooded Instagram and Facebook. Prayers for Matt. Amy should be ashamed of herself for stressing him out like this. Leave them alone. Can't you see he's dying? The narrative shift was violent and swift. Amy Roloff, who had been gaining public support as the truth about the farm's finances came out, was suddenly the villain again. She was the ex-wife who wouldn't let go, the woman whose bitterness was literally stopping Matt's heart. It was a masterclass in deflection. If the story had ended there, Matt and Caryn might have gotten away with it. They might have used these 30 days to restructure assets, to cut a new deal, or perhaps to flee the narrative entirely. But they made one fatal mistake. They got greedy with sympathy. They needed to keep the momentum going. They needed to show the world just how sick Matt really was. So Caryn took to Instagram. She posted a photo of Matt in a hospital bed. In the photo, Matt looks frail. He is wearing the hospital gown. He is lying back against the pillows, and his eyes are closed behind a pair of dark sunglasses. The caption was a plea for mercy. Please pray. He's fighting so hard. I don't know what I would do without him. The stress has been too much. It was designed to break your heart. It was designed to silence the haters. But they forgot that their audience isn't just casual viewers anymore. Their audience includes internet sleuths, Reddit detectives, and people who have been watching this show for 20 years, analyzing every continuity error and every hidden detail. One fan, a user on a popular LPBW forum, noticed something odd. It wasn't about Matt's face. It wasn't about the caption. It was about the reflection. Matt was wearing those signature dark sunglasses indoors, which is already a choice, but in the reflection of the lenses, and more importantly, in the reflection of the dark, switched-off heart monitor screen behind him, the truth was revealed. When you zoom in, and I mean really zoom in, The image of a man fighting for his life dissolves. Let's break down the forensics of this selfie. First, look at the medical equipment. In the reflection of the room, you can see the IV pole. But if you trace the lines, they aren't connected to Matt. There is no line running to his arm. There is no oxygen cannula in his nose. For a man who was admitted for shortness of breath and a cardiac event, he is remarkably untethered to any life-saving machinery. He is lying in a hospital bed, yes, but he appears to be using it more like a hotel bed. Second, look at the tray table. In the corner of the reflection, sitting on the adjustable hospital table, is a bag. It's not a hospital property bag. It's a brown paper bag with a logo on it. Internet sleuths quickly identified the logo. It's from a high-end local steakhouse and grill, located just a few miles from the medical center. Now, ask yourself this. If a patient is in critical condition, if they are in the ICU or the cardiac care unit because their heart is failing, are they ordering takeout? Are they eating heavy, sodium-rich food from a steakhouse? The dietary restrictions for a cardiac admission are incredibly strict. You are usually on a clear liquid diet or a heart-healthy restricted diet. You are certainly not ordering a ribeye and loaded mashed potatoes via Uber Eats. The presence of that bag suggests that Matt wasn't unable to eat. In fact, he had quite the appetite. Third, and perhaps the most damning detail, is the reflection of Matt himself. In the photo posted, his hands are out of frame, but in the reflection of the monitor behind him, you can see his posture. He isn't clutching his chest. He isn't limp with exhaustion. He is holding his own phone. He is scrolling. While Caryn is taking the photo of him looking unconscious or resting, the reflection shows that moments before or after, he was alert enough to check his notifications. He was alert enough to manage his own device. This contradicts the narrative of a man who is so incapacitated that his fiancée cannot leave his side for a court hearing. The hospital selfie was supposed to be the smoking gun that proved Matt's suffering. Instead, it became the smoking gun that proved his deception. It suggests that while he is physically in a hospital, the severity of his condition has been vastly exaggerated for the benefit of the court. This wasn't a man on the brink of death. This was a man in a VIP recovery suite, enjoying a steak dinner, checking his social media engagement, and laughing at how easily he had manipulated the legal system. The reflection strips away the PR spin. It shows us the reality of the situation. Matt Roloff is comfortable, he is well-fed, and he is very much in control. The implications of this photo are staggering. If this evidence reaches the judge, it's not just about the delay anymore. Faking a medical emergency to delay a federal sentencing hearing is a serious offense. It's contempt of court. It's an obstruction of justice. It proves a consciousness of guilt and a willingness to deceive the judiciary. Matt didn't just lie to his fans, he lied to a federal judge. And Caryn, by posting the photo and participating in the charade, makes herself an accomplice to this specific act of deception. They thought they were being clever. They thought a sad photo would secure their freedom, but they underestimated the attention to detail of the very people they rely on for ratings. This leads us to the darker theories circulating among the most dedicated followers of this saga. Was this planned weeks in advance? We have to look at the timeline again. If you look back at the show's editing in the last few episodes leading up to this real-life drama, Matt has been dropping breadcrumbs. He has been mentioning his stress more often. He has been complaining about his health more frequently than usual in his confessionals. Was this a planted narrative? Did they know sentencing was going to go badly, so they started seeding the idea of a health crisis months ago? It's a strategy known as persuasion. You condition the audience and the judge to expect a collapse. So when it happens, it feels inevitable rather than suspicious. But the steakhouse bag destroys the illusion. It breaks the fourth wall. It reminds us that Matt Roloff is, at his core, a producer. He produces moments, he produces drama. And in this case, he attempted to produce a medical tragedy. The audacity is breathtaking. To utilize hospital resources to take up a bed that could have gone to someone genuinely sick, all to create a delay tactic for a fraud case, it shows a level of narcissism that is hard to comprehend. And what about Chris Marek? We mentioned in the intro that Chris's attention to detail plays a role here. Chris has a background in real estate. He's detail-oriented. Sources close to Amy suggest that Chris was the one who first pointed out the discrepancies to her. He knows the local area. He knows the hospital protocols. When Amy saw the news, she was likely torn. But Chris, looking at the situation with the cold, hard logic he is known for, likely spotted the holes in the story immediately. He knows Matt. He knows Matt's love for theatrics, and he likely knows that Matt's definition of critical condition is very different from a doctor's definition. The narrative that Matt is fighting for his life is crumbling. The photo has been shared thousands of times. The comments on the original post have been scrubbed, deleted by Caryn or a PR manager who realized the mistake too late. But screenshots are forever. The internet has the receipts. The reflection in the sunglasses in the monitor is being analyzed by everyone from casual fans to body language experts. They are all coming to the same conclusion. Matt Roloff is staging a scene. But why go to such lengths? Why risk getting caught? Because the alternative is Caryn going to prison immediately. They are desperate. Desperate people do sloppy things. They make mistakes. They forget to hide the takeout bag. They forget to check the reflections. They forget that they are living in a glass house where millions of people are watching their every move. Matt thought he could direct this scene like he directs the farm crews. He thought he could yell action and cut on his own health scare. But he forgot that real life doesn't have an edit bay. He couldn't edit out the reflection. He couldn't post-produce the steak dinner out of the frame. As we move into this investigation, things are going to get even messier because the hospital walls have ears. And while Matt and Caryn were eating their steak and checking their likes, a hospital insider was watching. And that insider has a story to tell that contradicts everything Matt's PR team has released. We are about to move from visual evidence to medical leaks. If you thought the photo was bad, wait until you hear the diagnosis. Stay tuned because the discharge papers are about to leak and the diagnosis on them is not heart failure. It is something much more common and much more embarrassing. If the reflection in the sunglasses was the spark, the leak from inside the hospital was the explosion. While the internet was busy analyzing pixels and arguing over takeout bags, a source with direct knowledge of the situation decided that enough was enough. We have received information that shifts this story from a desperate PR stunt to a full-blown medical scandal. According to a verified anonymous insider, someone who works within the administrative network of the very hospital where Matt was admitted, the narrative being sold to the public is not just an exaggeration, it is a fabrication. This source, who risked their job to speak out because they were disgusted by the waste of hospital resources, leaked the intake diagnosis to a well-known tabloid outlet. And let me tell you, the diagnosis on those papers does not match the headlines. The world was told heart failure. The world was told of a life-threatening condition. But the intake papers tell a different story. According to the leak, Matt Roloff was admitted under the medical codes for gastroesophageal reflux disease, commonly known as GERD, and acute anxiety. Let's let that sink in for a second. Heartburn and panic. Now, I want to be fair here. Anyone who has ever had a severe panic attack knows that it mimics a heart attack. The chest tightness, the shortness of breath, the racing pulse. It feels like you are dying. And severe acid reflux can cause chest pain that radiates in a way that is terrifyingly similar to cardiac arrest. If Matt truly felt those symptoms, calling an ambulance was the right thing to do. No one is faulting him for going to the ER. If you think you're having a heart attack, you go. But here is where the lie begins. Once you are in the ER, once the troponin levels come back normal, once the EKG shows a normal rhythm, and once the doctors administer a GI cocktail to soothe the stomach and a sedative to calm the nerves, the crisis is over. You are discharged. You are told to change your diet, maybe cut back on the stress, and go home. You are not admitted to a VIP suite for a month. You certainly do not need a 30-day delay on a federal sentencing hearing. The leak alleges that after the initial test came back clear, proving his heart was fine, Matt and his team pushed for admission anyway. The source claims that Matt insisted on observation due to his complex medical history. Because of his dwarfism and his previous surgeries, he has a valid argument that his body reacts differently to stress. He used his legitimate medical past as a shield to turn a few hours of heartburn into a multi-week hospital stay. The discrepancy here is criminal. While his lawyer was standing in front of a judge, tears in his eyes, claiming that Matt was fighting for his life, Matt was likely sitting in a hospital bed, hopping up on antacids, scrolling through the comment section. The source describes a patient who was demanding, alert, and very focused on his phone. This wasn't a man drifting in and out of consciousness. This was a man managing a crisis, but the crisis wasn't his health. It was his public image. The discharge papers narrative that is now circulating suggests that the doctors wanted to send him home on Tuesday morning, the very morning of the sentencing, but Matt allegedly refused discharge, citing dizziness and continued distress. In the medical world, this is a gray area. If a patient claims they are dizzy or in pain, a hospital can't just kick them out without liability. Matt knows this system. He has spent enough time in hospitals to know exactly what to say to keep the bed. He bought himself time, quite literally, on the hospital's dime. And think about the insult this is to the court. The judge granted the delay based on the premise that Caryn's presence was necessary for his survival. Does one need a primary caregiver to manage acid reflux? Does one need their fiancé to hold their hand while they take a Tums? The medical reality of the diagnosis completely dismantles the legal argument used to delay the prison sentence. It turns the compassion of the court into a joke. Matt used a minor ailment to manufacture a major crisis, hijacking the empathy of the judge and the public to save Caryn from the consequences of her actions. It is the boy who cried wolf, but on a federal level. This leak changes the entire temperature of the room. It's no longer just fans on Reddit who are angry. It's the legal system. And this brings us to the prosecution. You can imagine the scene in the district attorney's office when this news broke. The prosecutor, who has spent months building a case against Caryn, who has dotted every I and crossed every T to ensure she serves time for the fraud we've exposed, was likely furious when the delay was granted. But prosecutors are sharks. They smell blood in the water. And when the steakhouse photo surfaced, followed by the GERD diagnosis leak, the prosecutor realized they hadn't just been beaten, they had been played. The prosecution strikes back. The narrative arc here shifts from the hospital room to the courtroom war room. The prosecutor knows that they can't just run back to the judge with a tabloid rumor. They need proof. They need something admissible. So the legal countermove begins. We have learned from legal experts following the case that the prosecution is filing an emergency motion for an independent medical examination, or IME. For those of you who don't speak legalese, an IME is the court's way of saying, we don't believe your doctor, and we certainly don't believe you. It is a motion that demands the defendant or in this case, the reason for the defendant's delay, submit to an examination by a neutral court-appointed physician. The argument the prosecutor is crafting is brutal and brilliant. It goes something like this. Your Honor, Mr. Roloff claims to be in critical condition, yet photographic evidence shows him consuming heavy meals inconsistent with cardiac care, and reports suggest his condition is non-life-threatening. If he is well enough to eat a ribeye steak, he is well enough to watch his fiancée get sentenced. And if he is too sick to travel, then he is in the care of medical professionals, which means Ms. Chandler is not essential to his survival. She is not a doctor. She is a convicted fraudster awaiting sentencing. Her place is in custody, not playing nursemaid to a man suffering from indigestion. Amy Roloff's reaction to all of this has been the undercurrent driving the truth to the surface. While Amy has publicly stayed relatively quiet to protect the family name, privately, sources say she is disgusted, but not surprised. Amy knows Matt better than anyone. She was married to him for decades. She knows his patterns. She has seen him pull the health card before. Think back to the early seasons of Little People, Big World. How many times did Matt have a sudden crisis or a migraine or a neck issue right when there was heavy lifting to be done? How many times did his physical limitations become the convenient excuse to get out of family obligations he didn't want to attend? Amy knows that Matt weaponizes his body. He uses his genuine disability as a trump card that no one is allowed to challenge. Amy's vindication is silent but powerful. She likely spoke to the kids and potentially to the prosecutors, providing the context they needed. She knows that Matt is a master manipulator. She knows that he panics when he loses control. And this entire heart attack was a manifestation of his loss of control over Caryn's fate. By feeding this context to the legal team, Amy helps them build the narrative that this is a pattern of behavior, not an isolated medical tragedy. The judge's reaction is the wild card that Matt and Caryn didn't account for. Judges hate being lied to. They have wide latitude to grant mercy, but they have even wider latitude to punish contempt. If the prosecutor presents the photo and the medical records obtained through the IME motion, the judge is going to realize he was duped. There is nothing a judge hates more than looking foolish. They delayed justice for a lie. This pushes the situation into contempt of court territory. The legal experts we've consulted believe the judge could do a few things. First, he could revoke the continuance immediately, dragging Caryn back into court within 48 hours. Second, he could order an investigation into the filing of the delay motion itself, meaning Matt's lawyers could be in trouble if they knowingly misled the court. And third, and this is the most satisfying possibility for those seeking justice, the judge could take this stunt into consideration during sentencing. If Caryn is seen as complicit in a scheme to defraud the court of its time, the judge can decide that she shows no remorse, no respect for the law, and is a flight risk. The 18 to 24 months she was facing could easily turn into 36 months or more. The sympathy play could backfire so spectacularly that it adds years to her prison term. The prosecutor is arguing that Matt and Caryn treated the federal court like a reality TV producer they could manipulate. They thought they could edit the timeline. They thought they could script the outcome. But the federal court is not TLC. There are no reshoots. The motion for the independent medical examination is the ultimate reality check. It forces the truth into the light. It strips away the PR statements and the sad Instagram captions and replaces them with cold, hard medical data. And let's talk about the timeline of the recovery. This is the part that really exposes the game. If the judge grants the IME, watch how fast Matt recovers. The moment the court demands an independent doctor step into that hospital room, Matt will likely experience a miraculous improvement. He will suddenly be well enough to be discharged. Why? because he cannot afford for a court-appointed doctor to listen to his heart and realize it's beating just fine. He cannot afford for a neutral party to read his chart and see acid reflux. The moment the scrutiny becomes professional rather than public, the illness will vanish. This is the pattern of the malingerer. The sickness exists only as long as it is useful. The prosecution's strike back is not just about Caryn, it's about the integrity of the system. They are making an example out of them. They are saying that you cannot use your celebrity, your wealth, or your health scares to pause the wheels of justice. The filing of this motion has sent shockwaves through the Roloff camp. We are hearing reports of late-night meetings, frantic calls to attorneys, and a complete silence from Caryn's social media. The Pray for Him posts have stopped. Why? Because they know they pushed it too far. They know the prosecutor has the steakhouse photo. They know the game is up. The tension is palpable. The judge is reviewing the motion as we speak. We are waiting for the ruling that could send police officers to the hospital to serve Matt with the examination order. Imagine the visual. Federal agents walking into a VIP hospital suite past the Uber Eats bags to tell a reality TV star that his act is over. It is the ending that this season of chaos deserves. But the real tragedy here is the manipulation of the audience. For days, millions of people were genuinely worried. People lit candles, people prayed, people defended Matt against the haters. And now, those same people are realizing they were pawns in a legal strategy. The prosecution isn't just fighting for the law. In a way, they are fighting for the truth that the fans deserve. They are exposing the man behind the curtain. Matt Roloff isn't the victim here. He is the director of a scene that went horribly wrong. As we transition into the final phase of this saga, the public sentiment is shifting from concern to rage. The comments section, once a place of support, is turning into a digital mob. The betrayal is setting in. The fans are realizing that the health crisis was nothing more than a get-out-of-jail-free card that failed. The backlash is coming, and it is going to be far more painful than any heartburn Matt has ever experienced. The sympathy has turned to rage, and the consequences are about to be severe. The court of law moves slowly, bound by procedure and evidence, but the court of public opinion moves at the speed of light, and for Matt Roloff and Caryn Chandler, the verdict is already in. As the details of the steakhouse selfie and the leaked acid reflux diagnosis spread across the internet, the atmosphere shifted instantly. We are witnessing one of the most brutal public relations collapses in the history of reality television. The same fans who, just 48 hours ago, were holding prayer circles and defending Matt against the so-called trolls are now the ones leading the charge against him. The sense of betrayal is palpable. It is thick, it is angry, and it is permanent. When you scroll through the comments on the latest updates, the tone has shifted from sympathy to pure, unadulterated rage. The top comments aren't "get well soon" anymore. They are accusations. You made me cry for you, and you were ordering takeout? My father died of heart failure. How dare you use that as a get-out-of-jail-free card? This is the boy who cried wolf. I will never believe a word this man says again. The audience realizes they were weaponized. They realize that their genuine emotions, their empathy for a man they have watched for 20 years, were used as leverage in a legal game to keep a fraudster out of prison. That kind of manipulation breaks the unspoken contract between a reality star and their viewer. We watch, we support, and in exchange, you give us some version of the truth. Matt broke that contract. He took the audience's love and cashed it in for a 30-day delay. The backlash is becoming a PR nightmare that no crisis management team can fix. We are hearing reports that longtime sponsors of the farm and the show are frantically calling the network, demanding answers. They don't want their brands associated with a hoax of this magnitude. There are rumors that TLC is scrambling, holding emergency meetings to decide how or if they can film the aftermath of this. How do you edit a season where the main character fakes a near-death experience to obstruct justice? You can't put a heartwarming music track over that. You can't spin it. The fourth wall hasn't just been broken, it has been shattered. The fans are unsubscribing in droves, the forums are burning with negativity, and the Roloff brand, which was built on family values and overcoming adversity, is now being associated with deceit and manipulation. And then comes the legal consequence, the hammer dropping in the real world. The judge, having reviewed the prosecutor's motion and likely having seen the photos that we have all analyzed, didn't wait for the 30 days to expire. The move was swift and decisive. Sources inside the courthouse tell us that the judge revoked the emergency delay order this morning. The logic was irrefutable. If the defendant's primary caregiver is busy taking photos of steak dinners, and if the patient is suffering from a manageable condition like GERD, there is no legal basis to pause a federal sentencing. The judge saw through the smoke and mirrors. The delay is dead. Caryn's sentencing has been put back on the calendar for tomorrow morning. This is a nightmare scenario for them. They used their one get-out-of-jail-free card. They burned their reputation to the ground to use it, and it didn't even work. They bought themselves 48 hours of bad press instead of 30 days of freedom. Now, Caryn has to walk into that courtroom, not just as a woman accused of financial crimes, but as a woman who tried to trick the judge. The leniency she might have hoped for is gone. The judge is human. He reads the news. He sees the mockery they made of his court. The sentencing tomorrow is going to be brutal. And just as we predicted, just as the script of this scandal demanded, the moment the judge revoked the delay, a medical miracle occurred at the hospital. Suddenly, the critical condition evaporated. The life-threatening stress vanished. Matt Roloff was discharged. The timing is so transparent, it is almost comedic. Within hours of the news breaking that the delay was canceled, Matt was seen leaving the hospital. He wasn't on a stretcher. He wasn't surrounded by a team of specialists. He was wheeled out to a waiting SUV, checking his phone, looking annoyed rather than relieved. The crisis stopped being useful, so the crisis stopped existing. It is the classic maneuver of the malingerer. The illness serves a function. It is a tool. When the tool no longer works, when the judge says she is going to jail anyway, the illness is discarded. Matt's miraculous recovery confirms everything the haters and the conspiracy theorists were saying. He wasn't fighting for his life. He was fighting for time. And now that the time is up, he is suddenly well enough to go home. He is well enough to face the cameras. He is well enough to deal with the fallout. The speed of his recovery is the final insult to the intelligence of his audience. It proves that the ICU narrative was a set piece, a stage they built for a performance that got canceled halfway through the first act. But the story doesn't end with him leaving the hospital. This is just the beginning of the end for their credibility. As Matt returns to the farm, he returns to a world that has fundamentally changed. Amy knows, the kids know, the fans know. He can never play the poor me card again. Next time he has a real medical emergency, and God forbid he does, who will believe him? Who will care? He has spent his credibility currency. He is bankrupt in the eyes of the public. And as Caryn prepares for her hearing tomorrow, she does so alone. The distraction failed. The spotlight is back on her crimes, and it is harsher and brighter than ever before because of the stunt they pulled to avoid it. This entire saga, from the ambulance lights to the steakhouse bag, exposes the dark underbelly of the Roloff empire. It shows us two people who have become so accustomed to producing their own reality that they thought they could produce the federal justice system. They thought they could edit the judge. They thought they could manipulate you. but they got caught. They got caught by a reflection in a pair of sunglasses and the eagle eyes of a fan base that is tired of being lied to. This wasn't a tragedy, it was a tactic, and it failed. Matt Roloff tried to weaponize his health to manipulate the justice system, and he got caught by a reflection in a monitor. This is a new low, even for him. It transcends reality TV drama and enters the realm of moral bankruptcy. Do you think Matt faked the severity of his condition? The evidence of the steak dinner, the lack of IVs, and the convenient recovery time points in one direction. But I want to hear from you. Do you feel betrayed by this stunt? And the biggest question of all, should the judge add extra time to Caryn's sentence for this attempt to deceive the court? Let me know in the comments below. I want to see a vote. Type fake if you think this was a PR stunt, or real if you still believe he was in danger. Don't let them spin this away. Make your voice heard. And you need to subscribe right now. You have to hit that notification bell, because while this video is ending, the story is exploding. The sentencing is happening tomorrow, and we have obtained something that is going to blow the lid off this entire operation. We have text messages. That's right. We have obtained leaked screenshots of text messages between Matt and Caryn from 3 weeks ago, weeks before the heart attack, where they discuss phase 2 and the hospital option. These texts prove premeditation. They prove that this wasn't a sudden collapse. It was a scheduled event. We are verifying the timestamps right now, and we are going to release them in our next video immediately following the sentencing. You do not want to miss the smoking gun that proves they planned this sabotage weeks ago. Hit like, hit subscribe, and share this video to spread the truth. The farm is in chaos, the judge is furious, and the truth is finally coming out. I'm LPBW Update, and I will see you in the comments and at the sentencing. Stay tuned.